Here's the uncomfortable truth. Mental exhaustion doesn't hit you all at once. It sneaks in, quietly. One rushed morning here, one sleepless night there. Slowly, your motivation drains. Work feels heavier. Small decisions feel impossible. And then, one day, you wake up and realize you're running on autopilot. Nothing excites you anymore. Not your job, not your goals, not even the things that used to spark joy. That's burnout. And burnout isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent. The smile you fake when someone asks how you're doing. The way you sit in front of your computer but can't focus for more than 2 minutes. The growing sense that no matter how much you rest, you're still tired. But here's the good news. Burnout is not a permanent state. It's not proof that you're weak, and most importantly, it's not inevitable. Burnout isn't about working too hard. It's about living without recovery, which means if you install the right daily habits, you can shield your mind like armor. Today, you'll discover those habits, not hacks, not quick fixes, but daily practices that save you from exhaustion and rebuild your energy from the inside out. Stick with this video until the end, because the last habit and the 3 mindset shifts that come after it may completely change the way you think about rest, resilience, and mental strength. Section 1. Understanding mental exhaustion. First, let's understand what's actually happening. Mental exhaustion isn't the same as being tired. You can sleep 8 hours and still wake up mentally drained. Why? Because exhaustion is the result of cognitive overload. Your brain was never designed for this level of constant stimulation. Think about it. 100 years ago, the average person only had to worry about their immediate environment. Family, work, local community. Today, in just one morning, your brain processes more information than someone in the 1800s would absorb in a month. News alerts, messages, emails, social feeds, deadlines, financial worries, global crises, all competing for your attention. It's like opening 57 tabs on your laptop and wondering why the battery dies. The programs themselves aren't deadly. It's the sheer number of them running at once. That's what happens to the mind. Mental exhaustion is not caused by one giant event, but by hundreds of tiny demands stealing your energy every day. And here's the worst part. Your body starts sending warning signs long before you collapse. Headaches, irritability, forgetfulness, trouble sleeping. But most people ignore them. They push through until eventually burnout forces them to stop. That's why these daily habits matter. They're not luxuries. They're safeguards, the mental equivalent of saving your work before the computer crashes. Section 2. The first habit, the reset ritual. The first habit is deceptively simple. Create a daily reset ritual. Here's the problem. Most people live in one endless, unbroken stream of tasks. Work seeps into dinner. Social media leaks into rest. Stress piles up because there's no clear line between on and off. The human brain loves rituals. They're anchors, cues that tell your nervous system what comes next. That's why athletes have pre-game routines, why monks have prayer schedules, and why children fall asleep faster with bedtime rituals. Your reset ritual doesn't need to be long. It could be taking a shower the moment you get home. It could be writing tomorrow's top 3 priorities on a sticky note before bed. It could be making a cup of tea and leaving your phone in another room. The point isn't the action itself. The point is the signal, enough, we're done. Because without a reset, your brain never switches modes. You carry today's stress into tomorrow, piling exhaustion on exhaustion. Over time, that's how burnout silently builds. Section 3. The second habit, energy before output. The second habit, always invest in energy before output. Most people wake up, grab their phone, and immediately start pouring themselves out. Answering messages, checking emails, reacting to everyone else's demands. That's like trying to sprint before breakfast. Here's the shift. Do something that charges you before you do things that drain you. It doesn't need to be dramatic. 5 minutes of stretching, writing down a thought that's been in your head, drinking a glass of water, reading 1 page of a book. Think of it this way. The first 30 minutes of your day set the tone for the next 10 hours. If you begin by giving yourself away, you'll feel behind all day. But if you begin by fueling yourself, even in small ways, you'll feel anchored, like you're steering the day instead of chasing it. Energy before output is the difference between starting your day as a servant or starting it as a leader. Section 4. The third habit. Monotask like a monk. The third habit is one of the most underrated, monotasking. Multitasking feels productive, but here's the truth. The human brain cannot focus on two things at once. What it does is rapidly switch, back and forth, over and over, and each switch costs energy. Imagine trying to read a book while someone taps you on the shoulder every 30 seconds. You'd eventually stop reading, not because the book is boring, but because your focus is shredded. That's multitasking. Monotasking is the opposite. It's training yourself to do one thing fully without interruption. When you write, just write. When you eat, just eat. When you rest, just rest. It sounds simple, but most people never actually do it. They eat lunch while scrolling their phone. They rest while half worrying about work. They work while half distracted by notifications. The result? Nothing feels complete. Nothing feels restful. Monotasking, practiced daily, restores energy by removing the constant mental tax of switching. It turns chaos into clarity. It makes the brain feel less like a battlefield and more like a calm river. Section 5. The fourth habit, the 3-to-1 input-output rule. Burnout isn't always about doing too much. Sometimes it's about consuming too much. Our brains are bombarded with input, videos, news, messages, podcasts. We consume endlessly, but rarely create. And this imbalance leaves us feeling bloated with information, but starved for meaning. The fourth habit is the 3-to-1 rule. For every 3 units of input, whether that's reading, listening, or scrolling, create 1 unit of output. That output doesn't need to be perfect. Write a note, sketch an idea, record a thought. Even speaking your reflections out loud counts. Why does this work? Because output forces your brain to process, organize, and integrate information. Creation recharges, while passive consumption depletes. Most people don't realize this, which is why they feel overwhelmed after hours of scrolling but refreshed after 15 minutes of writing. The 3-to-1 rule is like digestion. Input is eating. Output is metabolizing. Without both, the system gets clogged. Section 6. The fifth habit. Micro rest. Macro energy. The fifth habit is about redefining rest. Most people think rest means crashing for hours, sleeping in, binge-watching shows, doing nothing. But that kind of rest often leaves you feeling just as tired. Why? Because the brain doesn't recharge through numbing. It recharges through rhythm. Short, intentional breaks throughout the day do more for long-term energy than one giant collapse at the end of the week. These are called micro-rests, a 10-minute walk outside, breathing exercises between tasks, staring out the window without your phone, even lying down for 5 minutes with your eyes closed. Think of your brain like a muscle. Athletes don't wait until their bodies are completely broken before resting. They build recovery into the process. That's what micro-rest does for the mind. Here's a powerful truth. Most people don't burn out from doing too much. They burn out from doing too much without pausing. Rest is not what happens at the end. Rest is built into the middle. Section 7. The sixth habit. Guard your digital doors. Let's talk about one of the biggest modern causes of burnout, distraction. Every ping, every notification, every scroll isn't just annoying. It costs energy. Your brain has to process it, even if you ignore it. That's why constant notifications feel like death by 1,000 cuts. The sixth habit, guard your digital doors. Treat your attention like a home. You wouldn't let strangers walk in and interrupt you at dinner. But when you leave notifications on, that's exactly what happens. Strangers barging into your mental space all day long. Practical steps. Turn off non-essential notifications. Have social-free zones in your day. Don't check your phone first thing in the morning or last thing before bed. Remember, your brain isn't built to process thousands of tiny interruptions daily. Guard your digital doors and you'll find your mental energy rising almost instantly. Section 8. The seventh habit. Meaning over metrics. The final daily habit is the deepest one. Choose meaning over metrics. Modern life pushes us to measure everything: steps, calories, likes, followers, hours worked. And while metrics can be useful, they also trick the brain into chasing numbers instead of purpose. Here's the trap. You hit the number, but still feel empty. You reached 10,000 steps, but why? You worked 60 hours this week, but for what? The seventh habit is to anchor yourself in meaning every single day. Write down one sentence each morning. Why am I doing what I'm doing? It doesn't need to be profound. It just needs to remind you that your actions are tied to something bigger than metrics. When you live by meaning, even hard work feels lighter. But when you live by metrics alone, even success feels hollow. Burnout isn't just physical tiredness, it's the soul whispering, "None of this matters." Anchor in meaning daily, and you give your soul a reason to keep going. Section 9. Burnout-proof mindset shifts. Habits are powerful, but habits without mindset are fragile. So here are 3 mental shifts that keep burnout away for good. 1. Recovery is not a reward. It's fuel. Stop treating rest as something you earn only after working yourself to the ground. Rest is part of the process. It's fuel for better work, not a prize after suffering. 2. Progress beats perfection. Perfectionism is one of the silent drivers of burnout. The constant feeling that nothing is good enough, that you must always do more. Progress, no matter how small, is always better than the illusion of perfection. 3. Less, but deeper. Life doesn't require more habits, more hacks, more productivity. It requires fewer things, done with greater depth and care. Burnout isn't always from doing too little. Sometimes it's from doing too much of what doesn't matter. Closing, final push. Here's the truth. Burnout doesn't arrive with alarms. It arrives silently. In the mornings you dread, the projects that feel heavier than they should, the joy that quietly disappears. But you are not powerless. Every day you're building a system, either a system that drains you or a system that protects you. These habits are how you build the second kind. Start small. Pick one. Maybe it's a reset ritual. Maybe it's guarding your phone. Maybe it's writing down your why tomorrow morning, because every small choice compounds. And slowly, you'll notice something. Life doesn't necessarily get easier, but you become harder to break. That is the true antidote to burnout. Not escape, not quitting, but resilience, built daily, choice by choice, habit by habit. If this message resonated, remember, this channel exists for souls like you. Hit like, share this with someone who's on the edge of exhaustion, and subscribe for more videos like this. Because protecting your mind isn't just survival. It's the only way to truly live.